His name is Michael Franzese, shown here at a party in Florida last year. State and federal law enforcement authorities in New York and Florida say Franzese, who is only in his 30s, is the youngest mafia boss in the country and possibly the richest. Authorities say in the last 5 years, Franzese and some of the men around him have made perhaps as much as $1 billion. Not from heroin or cocaine or prostitution or gambling, but from a new mob business. Gasoline.
Good morning.
Good afternoon, Michael. You okay?
I'm okay, thank you. Yeah.
I've got quite a few questions for you, if you don't mind. I've got my iPad next to me, so if I glance over to my right, it's because I need to read off them. Can I just ask you, I know when I think the story is when you gave up that life in the Mafia was when you met your future wife or your wife at the time. I forget what it was, with a girlfriend or was it just an instant thing that you just said, yes, this is it, I'm just going to give it up?
Well, a combination of things. As you probably know, I was a major target of law enforcement back then. I mean, I had 18 arrests. I had 5 criminal trials. I had 3 racketeering cases. So they really wanted me. And what I noticed in the early mid 80s, when the racketeering laws came into effect and the government was using them very effectively, guys were getting convicted and going away for 100 years, 70 years, 50 years. And, I was the youngest out of all of these guys. I said, they're going to give me 200 years, number one. Number two, I saw a lot of guys becoming informants. So I said, this life is really in trouble. And at the same time, I met my wife, and I've always said this, that life is just horrible for families. Families get destroyed all the time, including my own, not my wife and kids, but mother, father, brothers and sisters. And I said, I met this young girl. I fell in love with her. Am I going to marry her and put her through the same thing that, every other family goes through? So it was a combination of those two, issues happening at the same time. And I decided I got to walk away. I got to try to get out of this. But at the same token, I didn't want to hurt anybody. I wasn't looking to join the government. They put a lot of pressure on me, but that's not what I wanted. So it was a tough time.
And how did your dad take it then? Did you sort of speak to him about it, or was it something you didn't even discuss?
Well, I told him I was going to walk away. He didn't quite get that and didn't understand how that was going to happen, and nor did I really know. There's no blueprint for trying to do that. He wasn't happy about it because he thought, is something going wrong with my son? Is he going to hurt people? But I told him that's not my goal. I don't want to do that. I'm not looking to hurt anybody. I'm just looking to preserve our lives here. So he was upset for a while. We didn't actually speak person to person for about 10 years because, the government on this side, they were really, putting pressure on me, and they were putting my name on the witness list of other cases that were coming up, like I was going to be testifying, but then I never showed up. So, people started to see something wrong in that scenario, that I wasn't really cooperating. So it was a lot that went on. It took time for people to understand that you walked away, which is bad. Can't do that. My boss was very, very upset. So was my dad, but he's not hurting anybody. So, but that was a 10-year, 12-year process of making that happen.
In that 12 year, then that process, was it within that time, was it when your dad your boss signed off on a hit on you, or was it after that? Or
no, it was during that when it became public that I was walking away. My boss, first of all, very upset with me, Carmine Persico. The feds came into the prison and said, contract on your life. And we got word from our informants that your father's gone along with it. He went along with it. He didn't order it, but he went along with it. And so, there was a lot of that on the street, no question.
So I know what happened to your brother, wasn't it? John Jr., he went and he did the unspeakable, if you know what I mean. But obviously then he reconciled with your dad, didn't he, before he died?
He went to visit my dad. My dad was 103 at that time. So, and yeah, he did have a meeting and I wasn't there, but according to my brother, they did reconcile. And I want to believe him on that. So, but, my brother did go the distance. He went all the way.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I know the story about that. I just think, well, everyone's different, aren't they? I guess. Family's family. You can't pick them. You've got.
Well, it's. I was upset with my brother for quite some time. But you know, I had a 70th birthday party. I hadn't seen him for, oh God, 15 years. And then other than when he testified at trial against my dad, I was there. I was in the courtroom. And you know, I sat down with him after this birthday party that he came to, and he said things to me that really made me think about our childhood, about things that we went through as a family, and you know, and not justifying what he did, but certainly understood it better, you know. And look, I love my brother, and we got together now, and you know, unfortunately, he's kicked a drug habit. He's well off of it, but he's got a sad life. You know, it's tough. It really is.
Well, I'm glad, there's some sort of connection there anyway. So, during your time then, when you're in the Mafia, was there any time that you contemplated walking away from it? I know you obviously did it when you met your future wife, but was there ever a time when you maybe up for some charges in prison that you thought, I'm just going to walk away, or was it just that one time when you met your girl, well, the girlfriend at the time, your future wife?
Yeah, she was the real catalyst for that. You know, up until then, it was just how I was going to navigate things, but I didn't think of a clean break. You know, I'm just out of this. If it wasn't for her, I probably would not have done it. I would still be involved.
Okay.
I would have still been involved, and it would not have ended up good.
And have you ever crossed paths with anyone from that world since you've been out? Because I know there's like the old adages, you've got to look over your shoulder all the time. But for yourself, have you ever come across anyone that maybe put the bejeepers up you or something? Maybe you felt uneasy.
No, not really. You know, it's funny that I have so many guys reaching out to me for, you know, for help and for advice, and you know, so I've never had any kind of scary moments, so to speak, you know, since then. I know there's still talk on the street from guys that, you know, because pretty much people have gone pretty low key here and undercover here in the States. You don't hear about that life like you used to at all. It's totally different. But so I know there's still scuttlebutt on the street in that regard. But people that have come to me, no, I haven't had any worries at all.
And when you say it's very low key, I mean, I was in Detroit a few months ago, and I know there's still the Detroit Mafia, and there's in New York, as you know, and Chicago, and all over the place. But it is very low key, isn't it? And for those in the UK, that probably always see, all they ever see is films like The Godfather, from the 70s, 80s, and they read the books, and they come to you to see you as well and listen to the stories. But is there a part of you that probably, well, maybe not part from yourself, but people still miss them days because they knew who the enemy was, whereas now you've got like MS-13, you've got the Lasitas and all the rest, and maybe the people from Eastern Europe have taken over the drug trade in the US. So it's not low key; it's very, very open, isn't it, with them guys?
Oh yeah, and you know, I have pretty big presence online and YouTube and all of that, and I get comments all the time. We miss you guys. We want you back in the neighborhoods. We wish you were running the government. You know, I mean, we get that all the time. So there is some kind of you know, feeling of that. Look, I got to tell you, at least in our neighborhoods, and the streets were safe when we were around. We took care of our communities, our neighborhoods. We wouldn't let any of riffraff in or any of that stuff go on. So people miss that, you know. You know, I was looking at, you know, John Gotti, who's public enemy number one to the government, but in his neighborhood, they loved him, you know.
Yeah.
Same with me, same with my dad, because we took care of people there. So, you know, I think people do miss that in a way, especially those that were there at that time.
Yeah.
It's crazy, really.
And is there anything that you miss from your time? I know it's probably a daft question. You probably get asked it all the time as well, apart from the money, and the respect. But is there anything that you sort of do miss that maybe isn't connected to money and the respect?
Oh, absolutely. Look, you know, I had a lot of friends during that time, a lot of good relationships. You know, I had an idealistic view of that life, you know, about the brotherhood, and, you know, I got your back, you got mine. I kind of miss that because even though there's a lot of treachery in that life, there is a lot of bonding among guys. And I had a crew that we were pretty tight knit and pretty close. So, you know, and our families were close. We did a lot of family gatherings, you know, with the kids and the wives and all of that. So,
Mm.
you know, I miss that. And of course, you know, look, the money and all of that, you know, it is secondary. And I'm not saying that now. I guess I'm older. I have a different perspective. It's not that. It was just the relationship that we had among all of us. And it was admirable in a way because we did have each other's backs. We really did. The problem with that is, I've said something. I don't know if Chaz Palminteri.
Yeah.
Well, Chaz and I are good friends, and there's a line in The Bronx Tale when he's asked by little Cologio, "Would you rather be feared or loved?" And he said, in my position, I want to be feared. It's better. But I said, Chaz, you're wrong, because what happened in our life is that the fear of the street was transferred to the fear of the government when they came out with these RICO statutes, and people became more fearful of doing the rest of their lives in prison. So they started to turn a lot of informants. So when you're in fear of something, when that fear is transferred, different. But when you love somebody, you're not going to hurt them, and my crew was pretty tight. We didn't go against each other, even with all the stuff when everything came down. Maybe one guy, but not everybody.
And of the crew that are still alive, are you still connected to a lot of them?
They're all dead.
Oh, really?
All of them.
Wow.
Nobody survived.
Wow.
They're all gone. Everybody that was around me at that time, they're all gone.
Shit. Okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. And when you say obviously people reach out to you online from that lifestyle as well, that are probably still in the lifestyle or were in that lifestyle, are there any that sort of, when they've come to you and they've taken your advice, has it made them sort of have you epiphany or whatever, say that they're going to give it up, or I don't know, like maybe following your footsteps of what you've done, say they've just turned my back on it completely and, they've resented what they did?
Trying to, because many of them, when they're coming because they've had hardship, family destroyed, or, legal problems, or just got out of prison. I have the sons of a couple of the guys that were made guys with me that were murdered.
Yeah.
And it really, kind of messed them up emotionally. So they've come to me for, guidance and talk about it and help and how do they overcome it. And, so I've had a lot of that, a lot of that.
And am I correct in saying that when you were in prison, you wrote an autobiography? That's what you did. Is that right? You wrote a book.
Well, I was on parole when the first
parole.
autobiography came out. Yeah. And that was in 1991.
And how hard was it writing that? Because I assume you didn't put any names in there, or you sort of you wanted to, but you couldn't because you didn't want to be seen as an informer, in a proxy way by going through a book. But how hard was it writing that book when you were on, like you say, on parole?
It was hard. On the first book, I had a co-writer with me, and he was pulling things out of me that were, I mean, there was one time he was staying at my house when I was on parole, and he was questioning my wife because he wanted to get her point of view, and she was like almost offended by some of the things that he asked her, and he was just doing his job. He didn't do anything wrong, but I seen that she was upset, so he came into the house, and I said, "Pack your bags, you're out of here." I said, "You're asking personal questions. Get out." And I chased him. But then, then my wife said, "Well, wait a minute. I didn't want you to do that. I'm just, so he came back and we finished the book. And it was hard for me. And a lot of things I told him, I said, "I'm not going to talk about that." And he said, "But I'm writing a book. You got to help me." Yeah. So it was a tough process.
Because obviously I know there's things that they would have asked you. I'm not going to ask you the questions what most people want to ask you because it's what's done in the past has happened and you don't want to incriminate yourself and anything that you've not been charged for. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, it must have been quite hard for him to sort of try and delve into your brain, let's just say, and get out of you what is going to be worthy to be read about. But you obviously don't want to say some things because A, you don't want to piss off your wife, and B, you don't want to have knock at the door by the bed.
Exactly. You got it.
So I know you do a lot of things with the youth, don't you? Like the kids, which you do lots of talks and things like that, and you get across to them that obviously I think it's the phrase where crime doesn't pay in the long run. How I mean, what was your process about doing that? Why did you want to do something like that for those that are so young, rather than just going down the path of doing talks, doing films, I don't know, things like that. So.
Well, it really started while I was in prison, and so many of these youngsters, these gangbangers, they're attracted to the mafia. That's like the biggest thing in jail, at least at that time. So I had a lot of them come around me, and you could write the same script for every one of them. Broken home, no father figure, navigate to the street, get involved with the local gangbanger, drug dealer. they end up in prison or worse, and that's their life. That's it. They're not going anywhere from there, from one prison sentence to another. So I was really affected by that. And when I came out, I was asked to speak to juveniles in juvenile halls, and it just started from there. And I went into a lot of prisons and spoke to young people and tried to give them that message, and basically what I tell them is, look, there's two things you got to worry about, or you got to concern yourself with, or protect yourself. And that is, you are who you hang out with. The people that you hang with are very important because they're going to lead you in one way or the other. And secondly, it's who you're accountable to in life that really matters. If you're accountable to the street, well, you're going to be a criminal for the rest of your life. So if you're accountable to your faith, your God, you got a wife, you got people that love you, you're going to try to stay on the right path. And I think those two messages resonate with them because they can comprehend that. It's easy. And I said, that's it. You worry about those two things. You get that right, keep yourself around the right people. If they're not right, chase them, remove yourself, get away, and be accountable to the things that are going to keep you on the right path.
I take my hat off for you for doing that, and and obviously you still do. Well, so it's to this day, don't you? You still do it as well. So
Yeah.
So are we expecting a film, based on your life? Then I know there was like something happened a couple of decades ago. I think it was that was a smallish biopic or something like
Yeah,
that.
it was a kind of a drama film like that. Yeah, you absolutely can. We started this just when the pandemic hit, and then we lost some time because of that, and then the strikes. But we're actively engaged in the development of it right now. As a matter of fact, the writer is visiting me with every day,
Okay.
and the script will be done shortly, and I think we have a deal in place. So they're talking about a movie first and spin off into a series. So I'm excited. I love the direction that it's going in. So should be happening.
And can I ask what it's going to be based on? I know it's on you, but is it on the whole spectrum of what happened from start to finish, or is it going to be a case of all the different characters as well, like people that you came across in your sort of world? Let's just say.
Well, yeah, I think what they're seeing here, we've seen a lot of these mob movies and stories, and what's really gotten everybody is the fact that I had a high position. I was around a lot of people, made a lot of money and did a lot of things for that life, major target of law enforcement. And then the fact that not only was I able to walk away without entering a witness protection program, but completely turn my life around and do it successfully over the course of many, many years. So, according to everybody, and again, I'm not, this is a character we can root for. You're a bad guy, you turned it around, and obviously, the relationship between me and my dad will be highlighted. The relationship between my wife and I will be highlighted. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be mob. Don't get me wrong, because it was funny. I'll give you an example. A guy wrote a script on me several years back. He did it on spec and he gave it to me and he said, "Please read it. What do you think?" And I said, "Well, here's what I got to tell you." I said, "Yeah, it's a nice story about me becoming a good guy. But while I was in the mob, you made me a good guy. So what's the big deal about my turn? I'm a good guy all the way down." I said, "You got to be real. I was a mobster. You got to show what I did in that life and what happened. And so that when the turn, it means something, but I guess he didn't want to be abrasive to me or whatever. So, but this is going to show it. I mean, you're going to see the gritty part of the life, and then you're going to hopefully see how it's been able to be turned around.
And that's what people want these days. They want to be entertained, but they also want to see the story where you got the bad guy who becomes the good guy, but you know what I mean. And I love that. I love that. So who would you? I mean, it's a daft question. Who would you want play you in it? I mean, obviously it's going to be from different parts of your life, but let's just say a modern day version of you. Well, before you left the mob, who would you want to be playing you, portraying you in it?
Well, I really I don't have anybody in mind. Like they asked me, "Michael, who do you want to play you?" Because casting is important. I said, "How about Denzel Washington?" And they go, "What?" I said, "Well, I know Denzel gets a movie made, so anybody that's going to make this happen is fine with me. I don't care because I know the industry is so tough. So if Denzel wants to play Michael and we get a green light on the movie, let's do it."
Yeah. If Disney make it, they will make the last time. So.
Exactly. I said, "Hey, whatever's going to happen."
And just one more question. Now, obviously, when you come into the UK in the next week, and what's going to be the gist of it then? Is it going to be What I mean, compared to the last ones you did, is it going to be the same sort of thing, or is it completely different material and everything?
It's going to be different because what I learned from the last time is people are really interested in the history of this life.
Mm.
You know, really from when people came over to America, you know, after Mussolini declared war on the mafia there in Sicily. And I want to talk about that, you know, from the days of Al Capone right up to Lucky Luciano. And you know, I have some good insight because my dad, you know, had personal experience with Luciano and Meyer Lansky and all that. So I heard a lot, Carlo Gambino. So I'm going to bring some history into it and some stories that people probably are not aware of. And then, you know, the personal story people do want to hear, but a little bit differently than before. I want people to really understand the darkness of that life and how meaningful it is to be able to turn your life around from a bad, dark situation and bring it into light. And you know, that's inspiring and motivational to people. And I think they want to hear that. And you know, that's my story, so they're going to know it.
And what's the best feedback you've ever had from one of your talks that you've done in the UK? Then people reach out to you online.
You know, I have to tell you this, and I don't know what's going on in the UK, but the last time I got there, I was so noticed by so many people. You would have thought I was half a rock star. I mean, people coming out of the pubs when I'm walking down the street, bringing me in. I went into a taxi. The guy says, Mr. Francis, you don't have to pay me. Just give me an autographed copy of your book. I'll come and pick it up. And I'm saying, wow, there's really a fascination with this life in the UK
Yeah.
because it doesn't exist there and they're interested in it, you know, thanks to the media and all of that. So people were absolutely wonderful, welcoming, open armed. I got so many great comments from people until today. I mean, I still get it, you know, because of my online presence. So, you know, I think the best thing is the encouragement that you hear from people. You know, really, you inspire me, and I'm really inspired by your story. And thank you for providing information because I do a lot. I'm on Rumble now. I don't know if you're familiar with that
Yeah, I
platform,
am. Yeah.
but on Rumble you can speak your mind. You know,
Yeah.
on YouTube you got to be careful and all of that.
Yeah.
But the comments I'm getting, you know, we need you. We need your voice. Thank you for being open and honest about it. And I get a lot from the UK. A lot. That's my second biggest audience to the United States. So, um, you know, I'm really looking forward to coming back. We had a great time.
Yeah. Can you imagine going back, say, 30 years and then saying that, what you're doing now, your online presence and the YouTube
Oh,
and everything? You'd be like, you'd be thinking you were going mad. Someone said to you.
oh, absolutely. You know, in a million years, I couldn't have predicted
Yeah.
something like this. It was, when I got out of prison, I didn't know how I was going to get started. And, you know, it was a whole complete change of environment and everything for me. And things just happened. You know, I can't say, hey, I planned to do this and it worked out. No,
Yeah.
it worked out and I didn't plan to do any of it.
Yeah.
It's just the opposite. But you know, I think I am going to be in on Tramshed, it's called, right? On
That's
Monday,
it.
March 18th. So please do talk about that because
I
my
will. Oh,
promoter's
gosh.
hitting me up. You know, please make sure you talk about that. But
Yeah.
it's one of the 12 cities I think that we're visiting.
Yeah. And you've got Sean. I think Sean's doing the Q&A as well.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
Sean is
Yeah.
going to be there. Yeah.
Yeah. How do you know him? Have you met him before the years ago, or was it just
Yeah,
something quite recent? Or
yeah, he reached out to me, you know, many probably 3, 4 years ago to come on my YouTube platform, and I did that, and then I went on his, and we just became friends last time I got there. You know, we spent time together.
yeah, because he's quite big, it's just as big as you are. So yeah, you're both
Yeah.
massive. So that's great. But no, thank you for your time. I mean, I've taken your time, but actually, it's just one thing. I know I've actually watched you last question, and I apologize for this. When you got out of prison, did you have to get a job, or was it something you didn't have to go? I mean, obviously, when you've come out of with nothing from when you're on parole, did you actually get a job? I never sort of found anything online about this.
Well, you're on parole. They want you to see how you're supporting yourself, you know. So, you know, fortunately, it was within a week of my getting out of parole, I was asked to come and speak first at a church.
Okay.
And then people were asking me to come and tell my story. And so I had almost immediate income just from that, which I didn't
Okay.
expect. Yeah. But I never had I'll be honest with you, the last real job I had, other than working for myself, you know, paying, you know, myself, was back in, I was 16 years old and I was working on the World Trade Center as a laborer in the summertime, you know, when I wasn't in school. That was the last job I actually had that I wasn't paying myself from one of my own companies. But yeah,
I'm
but
glad I've
it's all
asked you.
good.
Sorry, it was bugging me for a while, so I couldn't find anything. So I knew you sort of it was stop start in a way, but I wasn't sure because I know when you're on parole, they expect you to get a job, don't they? So, but no, yeah. But thank you for your time. It's been, like I say, it's been an honor speaking to you. It's been a long time coming. So, but honestly, thank you for your time.
Well, I appreciate it. Hope I get to meet you when I get on the other side there.
Yeah, you will do. Yeah, thanks, Michael. You take
All
care.
right, my friend. Have a good rest of your evening. It's your evening.
Yeah, and you have a good day. Thanks, mate. Cheers.
Yeah.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Bye bye. Bye bye.
Cheers.